music like y'all have. So, but come on in the room. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. Welcome to the Damian Jones podcast. Happy Memorial Day. Today is May 25th, 2020. Another blessed day, another wonderful day that God has given us. And another great day for us to have some very, very, very good dialogue around some of the things that happened in the past several days. It has been a uh, packed weekend with information, with quotes, with gaffes, a lot of dialogue, a lot of questions happening. So come on in the room, come on in the room as well. I already have my guests with me. We're going to bring them in just a moment. I have the dynamic Warzone podcast team, and I will bring them in just a moment. We got to take care of some housekeeping things as well. But thank you for joining me. This is the Damian Jones podcast, where we discuss news, politics, and lifestyle in a fun, adulterated, and respectful way. Come on in the room. It's Memorial Day. Y'all don't have anything else to do today but to chime into this conversation. Let me take a moment and share. So if this is your first time joining our broadcast, thank you so much. Take a moment and hit the like button right now. Hit that like button. Let me know you can hear me as well, but hit the like button. It's your first time. If you are a regular viewer, we really, really, really appreciate you. Go ahead and hit the heart button right now. And if you're watching, period, go ahead and share so everyone can get this information. We have a jam-packed conversation to talk about today. And particularly, here's the theme of our conversation will be, does a vote for Joe Biden define your blackness? And so we want everybody in this conversation. I know you all been talking about it. So go ahead and tag somebody right now. Tag a friend. Tag somebody that you know um, that has been talking about this conversation, that wants to be a part of this conversation. Let me go and share really quickly. Let me share this broadcast as well. I want everybody in the room today. How do I share this thing? There it is. Okay. Let's and then we're going to get started in just a moment. Bring our guest in as well from the Warzone podcast, the hottest group, the big three. You know, you got MJ, you got Pippen, you got Rodman. You know, they are in the building. Donovan Sadiq, Demetra, Kaye, the five-star general, Jerry Monroe. I'm going to bring them in just a moment. But let me share. Let me share. Thank you all for joining us today as well. And listen, we always have an interactive conversation. So put your comments below. We'll pop those up on the screen because we want to know what you think as we get into this very, very polarizing conversation today. Very, very polarizing conversation. So let me just say this as well. We've seen some things over the last several days in terms of folks not social distancing. You know, I know that you all want to have fun and get out of the house. I know it's been crazy, but folks, with the videos we've been seeing, day parties, hundreds of people, no mask whatsoever. People don't. I mean, the conversation we're going to have today is about choices politically. Make the right choice. Stay in the house. Social distance. Now is not a time for day parties. So let's just be safe. But listen. It only takes a moment to put your mask on really quickly, and you know, only takes a moment to do that. But let's stay safe as we come into today's conversation. I want to bring my guest in today. This is the Damian Jones podcast. Talking about today, does a vote for Joe Biden define your blackness? Does a vote for Joe Biden define your black? Give me your comments, tag somebody, like it, share it, all that good stuff. Come on in the room. But I want to introduce my fine guest today who was so grateful to join me today. I've been on their wonderful show, and they were so gracious to join me today on Memorial Day. But on today's broadcast is the five-star general, Jerry Monroe. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
Man, good. Great to have you with us today. And then we have the lovely, the powerful, the outspoken Demetra Kaye. Demetra, how are you today?
I'm doing well, and thank you so much for having me on your show. I consider it a pleasure.
Good, good. Glad you were able to kind of escape that pit bull this morning. Very concerned about you. And my good brother, fellow Air Force veteran as well, Donovan, the Black Yule Brenner Sadiq. There you go, brother. How you doing today?
Man, I am blessed. I am blessed, and a happy Memorial Day to all those who have lost a loved one in a combat situation, and happy Memorial Day to our fellow vets.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I know we're excited to get into today's conversation. Folks for coming in the room. Thank you so much for coming in the room. Tag somebody, share somebody, like this broadcast. And as you hear information along the way, let us know if you like it. Let us know if you disagree. Put your thoughts in the comments as well. But let's take a quick moment of silence as today is Memorial Day. Let's have a quick moment of silence. I have my veterans hat on today. Let's have a quick moment of silence for those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, those who have served, and those families that have been impacted as well. Let's quick moment of silence. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So let me set the table. We all know what happened on Friday. Joe Biden went into the Breakfast Club and he had a conversation with Charlemagne the God. And I know that they had the Biden campaign had been reluctant to even have Joe go on the Breakfast Club for whatever. I don't know those specific reasons, but I know they were reluctant to do so. But I think given that coronavirus and Joe cannot move around the way he normally would, you have to utilize those platforms. And so I think they were kind of forced to put him in front of Charlemagne. And I think Charlemagne asked some good questions. It was a decent interview, but Joe made some very controversial comments. And so let me tee up those comments for our guests so they can see this as well.
I want to ask you about.
Let me tee this up for you all.
You're running me. I don't know if you saw. Well, I saw today that a news report broke that Amy Klobuchar was being vetted, and a lot of people on social media, they're not too happy about that. And it's because they want your running mate to be a Black woman. I don't know if you saw the op-ed in the Washington Post by some of the leading Black women voices in this country, and they feel since Black women are such a loyal voting bloc, and Black people saved your political life in the primary this year, they have things they want from you, and one of them is a Black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple Black women being considered. Multiple.
Well, you know,
that's really our time. I apologize.
You can't do that to Black media.
I don't do that to white media and Black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm in trouble.
Listen, you gotta come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't Black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. Come on. Take a look at the record.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Anyway, thanks. I will come back.
All right.
I look forward to seeing you in person.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay, pal. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Charlemagne.
So there you have it. Joe Biden, you heard those comments. 5-star, I'll come to you. What are your initial thoughts when you heard Joe Biden make those comments?
I ran for office and I learned one thing. When you're a politician, you have to be very selective of your words. You just don't get to say what you want to say no more. You noticed the look on my face when you were playing it.
You know, it's not that I'm offended. I expected it from him. I know where he's from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know exactly where Joe's from. So that's not, even reaching for him to come up with that comment. As far as what he said, I don't consider it a joke. I think he meant what he said, and that's what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, I understand why Obama kept him quiet.
Oh wow. Okay. So you weren't too alarmed. You expected this from Joe. This is part of the course. In your view, Demetra, what were your initial thoughts when you heard Joe Biden say, "If you're not voting for me, then you ain't black"?
Well, initially, because I was listening to it with my daughter, and when I heard it, I looked at her and we kind of looked at each other, and I said, "Wait a minute, did he say what we thought he heard? We heard him say." So we rewinded it, and sure enough, he said, basically, "You ain't black." Now, I'm with the general on that. I'm not surprised that he said it, but I'm surprised that he said it due to him having so many handlers, and we know Joe Biden is the king of gaffes. He says things that that he has to often walk back. But I was a little shocked that he said that. But then once the shock wore off, it's like, well, it's not unusual because politicians, especially Democratic politicians with the black community, they do and say everything to try to get us to vote. If you guys remember when Hillary Clinton was on the Breakfast Club, she said she had hot sauce in her bag, which was a Beyonce song, and so they know it doesn't take much to get us all riled up. So surprised, but not surprised.
Okay. Donovan, when you first heard those comments, what were your thoughts? And folks,
I didn't have any thoughts
as well.
Yeah, I didn't really have any thoughts about it. I just saw my jaw drop because as somebody who's a political junkie, I eat this stuff up. I wake up, reading and thinking about politics. And I've looked at it and I just said, at the end, it just made me think he has black handlers in his group. And it's no surprise that his black handlers probably told him, well, you got to talk to him just like this because that's how black people talk. It reminded me, we were on the show last night. It reminded me of that episode of Good Times where JJ was white. He dreamed he was white.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, a funky chicken, you got to do this. And it was just another example of their caricature of black people and how juvenile we are when it comes to politics.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I know several people personally, black people personally, that work within Biden's campaign. And I know that they didn't tell him to talk like that. I know for sure. I know that they prepped him. I know they gave him the right talking points. And sometimes politicians just say what the hell they want to say, regardless of what your team tells you to say, regardless of how you've been prepped, regardless of what you should say. I think sometimes they just go off the cuff. But here's what when I initially heard those comments, I wasn't surprised. To be honest with you, I don't think Joe is our savior. I don't hold Joe in high regard. Am I right now? Am I leaning toward Biden? Am I a Biden supporter? Yes. But do I think he's the best thing since sliced bread? Absolutely not. Do we understand? And I know I try to acknowledge and be honest about it, Joe's connection to racism and bigotry in his past. We got to look at that. We can't just overlook that. Do we also understand that Joe is not a spring chicken and Joe is not 35, 45 years old? He's not as sharp mentally. We can't overlook that. I know just Democrats try to overlook that, but Joe is not sharp mentally as well. And there's a generational divide when it comes to Joe. When you're going on a Breakfast Club show that caters to a 21 to maybe 45 audience, and maybe he felt like he had to be a little cool, right? But as you said, Demetra, I think that's the mistake that some politicians make. They try to be too cool and they do too much, right? And so I was not surprised by Joe's comments, but I felt disrespected for my people that Joe, because I don't see Joe talking like that on any other platform, on any other. When Joe goes to sit down and talk to Morning Joe doesn't talk like that. When
Exactly.
when Joe is on NBC or CBS, Joe doesn't talk like that. So what makes Joe feel that now he has to change his dialect and to dumb down his talk, if you will, when he's sitting with a Charlemagne, the God? You know, I just have some questions. What are you thinking of, a 5 star?
I'm gonna tell you this here, man. That first, let's talk about our people. Now, you felt disrespected. Donovan, Demetra, me, disrespected. Our people have to even know they've been disrespected. That's why a lot of them keep giving him a pass. They don't even know that this man has disrespected them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that I take that a step further and say that as I was listening to the minister this morning, that white America needs to be repaired, as well as black America. See, they're always telling us we need to be repaired. No, white America needs to be repaired, because if you go back 400 years with the things that they were conditioned to do to us, and for 400 years they were able to do it, they got comfortable doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So now you look at Joe making a statement like this 400 years after slavery. He's been conditioned to do that. He's been conditioned to do that.
Let me just say this. Joe has gotten too comfortable. Yeah, and I looked all yesterday and I tried to find the video. When Joe has run for president 3 times now. And until South Carolina, Joe had not won any primaries whatsoever. Every attempt at the presidency had been futile and empty for him, right? And so I tried to find a video of him before he won South Carolina. And I saw the video. He had his hat in his hands. He was humble. He was like a child looking for some candy from his parents. He was like, please, 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 I need this vote. Please, y'all take me over the top. Jim Clyburn gave him a lifeline. And 2 months later, you sit on the Breakfast Club and you're defensive. You give a very non-substantive interview, no talk about the real agenda, danced around questions, rambled for the entire interview. So he's extremely comfortable, and I'll say he's comfortable because we continue to give him a pass. We've given him a pass because he served as vice president under our black president. And I read a comment somebody this morning said because he was Barack's vice president, he deserves leniency and a pass. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nobody gave Barack a pass. Nobody was ushering in Barack with any help. He had to fight and earn the presidency just like everybody else. And Joe has to earn it just like everybody else and not ride on the coattail of a Barack Obama.
Man, let me say this here. And this is why Joe made the statement. There are 2 different types of black folk in America to somebody like Joe.
Mm-hmm.
There's the intellectual, professional Negro that Malcolm warned us about. And then there's what they will never say in public, niggas. Joe felt he was talking to some niggas.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought he'd get away with it.
Right.
I'm telling you how I felt.
Right.
Because Joe would never have this discussion or this dialogue in a room with some professional Negroes off of McGregor from where we from in Houston.
Right.
He would never say that in front of them. I've seen it done with school officials. They're on one side of town, they talk one way. And then when they come to our side of town, well, my grandmother used to sell crack, and ain't nobody asked you all that. The whole story changes. He was comfortable and he felt he was talking to some niggas. And in all actuality, he had no respect for Charlemagne because Joe, you knew the questions before you went on.
Maybe he knew the questions, but I think there's a level of respect that you have to have for our community, and I just don't think is particularly there for Joe. Demetra, jump in here. Do you think Joe is too comfortable?
Absolutely, he's too comfortable, but that's not Joe's fault. That's our fault, because those politicians know that all they got to do is get on the Arsenio Hall show and play the saxophone, and we just fall out. He said, Bill Clinton's the first black president, again with Hillary with the hot sauce, and now Joe, and you know what? Joe knew who he was talking to. That's why he's avoided the Breakfast Club for so long, because he knew they were going to pull his, card and ask him the questions. And so he finally shows up, now, and like you said, gave a horrible interview, but he knew who he was talking to. But I think he threw that last comment in as, okay, let me just my last shot at the Black community, and it worked. Just like Hillary said with the hot sauce, it's working. The "you ain't Black" comment is working, because look at all the Negroes that are defending him, saying he's not wrong, even though he apologized and said he was wrong. So now the House Negroes are defending him, saying he was right, even though he said he was wrong.
Right.
So
we've been conditioned to defend the massa.
And so that's my thinking. Why do we continue to, and don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for Joe to be perfect. We all have flaws. We all are going to make gaffes. We're all going to make mistakes. And let me preface this statement by saying this, as we have this overall conversation about Joe Biden and his comments. Donald Trump is not perfect. Donald Trump, we know that he is problematic. We know that Donald Trump has a record of racism and being connected to racism. We know what he's continued to talk about in the White House in terms of demeaning all groups, marginalized groups as well, talking down to reporters as well. We know who he is. So this conversation is not an endorsement of Donald Trump. This conversation is to call into question and to critique the Democratic nominee, eventual Democratic nominee, who is catering and wants the vote of Black people. And I always want to use my platform and my voice to uplift, educate, and inform Black persons. And so that is why we're having this conversation. We're not endorsing Donald Trump whatsoever, but to critique and to push up against the wall and to add the Socratic method to the behavior of a Joe Biden does not mean that we're supporting Donald Trump. It means that we want to be democratic. We want to ask the right questions. We want to be Socratic in our thinking, right? And we want answers. And so until November 3rd comes, our vote has to be earned and worked for. What do you say to that, Donovan?
Absolutely, I have to agree. I just want to make a quick comment. On our show that we do, I usually jump into the comments and I look at the guests. And I just want to say, your guests have some great comments, great diversity in the comments. I mean, I'm really honored to be on this platform and see some very intelligent people on here. So you have big ups to you there. But when it comes, basically on our show, we all have individual shows, just like we're on your show as well, and we all have different ways of coming to the same goal. Now, my thing is the money. I want to get to the money. And my thing is, what is Joe Biden's Black agenda? I mean, when he was on the show with Charlemagne, he talked through the whole interview. I think Charlemagne got 3, maybe 4 questions in, and then his handler was like, "Oh, we got to go." And that's what really kills me about politicians. Once they've reached the cresto to where it's like, we don't have any other option now. You got to vote for me because there's no other option. Mm-hmm. And we just want to say, okay, Joe, you did what you got to do. What are you going to do specifically for this group of people? Because you said you're going to do DACA.
You watched the entire interview, did you? And I think many that are watching right now watched the entire interview. If you watched that interview, folks that are watching, did you hear a Black agenda in that conversation? Did he lay out a Black agenda? I would think that if you're coming on a show that caters toward the Black community, your team will prep you with the highest talking points to your Black agenda. Demetra, 5-star. Donovan, did you hear a Black agenda in that interview?
Hell no. When you look at his lift every voice and sing, I just got off a conference call with Robert Williams, and they're about to present his team with a true Black agenda. There's nothing in what Joe's talking about that has anything to do with a true Black agenda. And the sad part about that, when you look at some of the other things that he want to do, he specifically targets certain ethnicities to make sure that they're taken care of.
Right.
And for me, you know, being 52 years old, I mean, God damn it, give me something for my vote, man.
Right.
I want something, man.
Right.
I mean, but as far as a black agenda, no, not at all.
Right. Hey, Marcus Johnson. I know Marcus Johnson is watching. I want to bring him into this conversation. He is a very high voice in the Texas Republican Party, African American brother. Marcus, send me your email, and I'll bring you into the conversation because I think it would be really, really good to get your thoughts and your voice in here as well. Damian Jones podcast, talking about Joe Biden's comments a few days ago. Does a vote for Joe Biden define your blackness? Does a vote for Joe Biden define your blackness? Is the premise of our conversation today. Let me tackle that question. And that's another part why I thought it was disrespectful. Is when you look across the board, when you look at a Ahmaud Arbery, when you look at a Tamir Rice, when you look at a Eric Garner, when you look at a Breonna Taylor, when you look at all of these different names, African Americans gunned down, unarmed, when you talk about wealth inequality across this country, when you talk about homelessness, when you talk about the mass incarceration system as it affects African Americans at a disproportionate rate.
Education.
Right. That is the black experience. And nowhere in that is that experience connected to a vote for Joe Biden. I don't know if Joe thinks he's black. But then folks may say, oh, he was just playing. He said it in jest. His senior advisor, Simone Sanders, said he said it in jest. But let me just say this to Joe. Don't play with us like that, dog. Don't. We got too much going on. We're in constant terror. Our lives are being ravaged hundreds of years. You don't know us like that. Don't play with us like that. I know you've been to the picnic. I know you got a little corn, a little popsicle. You got to sit down and have a beer, play a little checkers and chess and so forth. But don't play with us like that, dog. We have too much.
I'm gonna say this in a joking manner, Joe. Come on to the hood, crack and play dominoes with me, baby.
No, I mean I just don't think we're at a place where, I mean, when we talk about COVID-19 deaths at a high rate, disproportionate with black folks, and we got our Democratic nominee telling us that if we don't vote for him, we aren't black. I really think that's disrespectful, and I think we can do much better. Let me show you this video. Here is Simone Sanders from Joe Biden's team with Reverend Al, kind of talking about and responding to the critique this weekend. One second, here we go.
Campaign kicked off a $1 million digital ad blitz this weekend following former Vice President Joe Biden's quote, "You ain't black" comments. The Trump campaign is already selling T-shirts with that quote emblazoned on the front. Joining me now is Simone Sanders, senior advisor to the Biden campaign. Thank you for being with us, Simone.
Always happy to be here, Rev.
Your response to the Trump campaign trying to exploit that term, the statement made by Vice President Biden that he has subsequently said he shouldn't have made that statement or said it in the way he said it.
You know, Reverend Sharpton, frankly, it's despicable, it's disgusting, and it's a distraction. The reality is that while the Trump campaign is trying to drum up fallacies and all these conspiracy theories and trying to depress the African-American vote, Vice President Biden, on the other hand, has not only talked about and engaged with the African-American community about the issues that are most important to them. He has put forth a comprehensive plan, a plan that will serve as the foundation for policies on what he would do when he becomes president and how he would govern. Donald Trump, meanwhile, he championed the racist birther movement against President Obama. Let's not forget Charlottesville. There are very good people on both sides. He also called African countries S-hole countries. Okay, it's like he used the actual term. He has disparaged places. He's disparaged Chicago.
All right, so you heard Simone Sanders and her comments defending Vice President Joe Biden. Demetra, you're shaking your head. What do you think? What do you think about those comments from Senior Advisor Simone Sanders?
I think she ought to be ashamed of herself as a Black woman defending, and I get it, she's getting paid a good check, but she's defending a white man who has a history, a record of harming Black people. And when she talks about Trump, and I want to say this, and somebody made a good point in the comments, it's a shame that we have to always say we're not a Trump supporter, but I'm nonpartisan. I'm not voting for either one of them, but she's talking about things that Trump has said opposed to the things that Biden has done. And from where I come from, actions speak louder than words. And I want to touch upon the original point, how you're saying that clearly something is off with Joe. I don't know what it is. So I'm like, if those Black people that are on his team are really interested in helping Black people, why are they propping him up? Now, I don't know it's for the rest of the country, but I'm talking about Black people. Why are they propping him up when he can't even really
what are
have
they
a
supposed to do?
coherent conversation?
If they're inside on the team, what are they supposed to do? Quit? I mean, what would you think they should do for those Black folks on the inside?
I mean, I get it. Hey, everybody's got to eat. So I understand it from that point of view. They're earning a check, but you don't get up and lie and say you interested in helping Black people, because everybody else is going to be all right. It's Black people that those politicians, specifically the Democrats, pander to, and they have absolutely nothing to offer. But don't lie and say he alone, because you're part of his team. Don't lie and say you're trying to help Black people when you're propping this dude up who can barely string two coherent sentences together, and he gets on the Breakfast Club and jive talks for the whole 19 minutes he's on there.
Yeah, right.
So like, don't lie to kick it, Simone.
Yeah. Donovan, what are your thoughts?
And Demetra just stole my thoughts just right there. I mean, it's exactly that. I mean, my thing with the thing is this. Out of all the people who ran in the Democratic primary, this is the guy that we think is going to take it to the finish line. And I just don't see it happening. I mean, out of all the people that they, no, I just don't see it, because one thing, in politics, we know sometimes there's more money in the opposition from the donors than actually winning it. And Nancy Pelosi, who heads the Democrats, says the reason why she should be leader is because she raises the most money. And and I just don't see how you look at this man and say, wow, he's the best we've got to beat Trump. Let's nominate him. I just don't see it. Right.
Yeah, go ahead, Demetra.
Because I see that question clearly directed to me. I said, and I'll say it again, I'm not voting for either one of them. I will not be forced to vote for the lesser two evils. That is the solution. If Black people will hold our vote and actually make the party that benefits from Black people the most actually give us something, not no talking points, then that is a good solution. Until then, I'll do my part, and I'm not going to get in the mud with everybody else and try to choose a master to serve when they supposed to be serving me.
Damon Jones podcast, talking with my good friends from the War Zone podcast, talking about Joe Biden's comments. Was Joe Biden wrong? Is a vote for Joe Biden defining your Blackness? Let me ask you a question. Did Joe Biden lose your vote? Keep the comments coming. Did Joe Biden lose your vote? But before you answer that question, let me show you all a quick one more video, and I'm done with video. Let me show you one more video, because here's the thing. Every time there's a critique on Biden, folks immediately go back and say, well, Trump did X, Y, and Z. Well, Trump is worse, right? You ever had an argument with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or what have you, and you go to them and you say, hey, I really don't like when you did this. I really don't like when you said this to me. And instead of that person saying, you know what, I'm listening to you, they immediately say, well, you did this to me, you did that to me, and you did X, Y, Z. And we're not able to have a coherent and productive conversation because everybody's pointing the finger instead of just owning what it is they've been a part of. But let me show you this video.
Where we had an African-American guy, he was a fan of mine. Great fan, great guy. In fact, I want to find out what's going on with him. You know what I'm, look at my African-American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? You know what I'm talking about?
It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I want to ask, what made them do this? They must be taken off the street.
Up to him.
Robert Mueller.
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions. People at the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
Deadly white supremacist violence in Charlottesville, claiming there were some very fine people on both sides.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
As a son of the Confederacy, acknowledging that it was time to change and yield to a position that Senator Carol Moseley Braun raised on the floor of the Senate, not granting a federal charter to a organization made up of many fine people who continue to display the Confederate flag.
All you have to lose. It can't get any worse. You'll be able to walk down the street of your inner cities and not be shot.
He lied to voters, according to the New York Times, quoting aides of Biden's, about having marched in the civil rights movement. This is Biden making this false claim in 1987.
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I did not march with a 12-point program. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes.
Running against Donald Trump at this point is really treason to your heritage.
One step is you must take back the streets. And you take back the streets by more cops, more prisons. The truth is, every major crime bill since 1976 that's come out of this Congress, every minor crime bill has had the name of the Democratic senator from the state of Delaware, Joe Biden, on that bill.
On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying that the president.
It's such a racist
There are
question.
some people that say
if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump and you ain't black.
All right. Talk to me. Do Biden and Trump have a similar connection to racism within their work in their past?
If you're asking me, absolutely, and that's why I always say when I ask people, we gotta get Trump out of there. We gotta get Trump out of there. Okay, what's going to be different? What is going to be different between a Dixiecrat racist and an outright son of Klansman? What's going to be the difference for us as Black people?
That is what you call the lesser of two evils, right? If you would have closed your eyes, they both sounded the same. But the difference is, I think I'm having some feedback. Somebody, I need to put the mic. The difference is Joe Biden has made policies that have hurt Black people. And even as I see people in the comment section, they're defending this dude. That's why I said when he made that comment about black, you ain't black, it worked because he knew he wasn't talking to us. He was talking to the Negroes that are still asleep.
Well, let me say this. to that point, for those folks who are defending, I think some of their view is that's all we have.
No, it's not.
It's either Donald Trump or it's Joe Biden. And I think one of the comments was saying, well, if you can complain, but it's the lesser of two evils, we got to pick something. What else do we choose Donald Trump? Do we sit out and not vote, or do we just hold our nose and go with Joe Biden? I think that's probably what they're saying.
Would you? And I ask this all the time. If you walked into the store and you wanted to buy a red pair of shoes, and you were set on a red pair of shoes, they don't have a red pair of shoes. Are you going to go in there and buy something else? Or are you going to walk out and wait till they order a pair of shoes you can buy?
Right.
A vote is a transaction. We don't have to vote.
Right.
Can I say something?
Hop in, 5-star.
Jalen Taylor, I don't know if you can see this. He say, I have not heard one of you guys in the last 10 minutes on what you want Biden to give black people. The question is what do you think you deserve? Now, I'm going to tell you what I want. All them brothers that went to jail for 3 pieces of rock and got 40 years, open the door and let them out.
Okay.
Fix that problem. Okay. Our educational component for African-American children basically does not exist.
Okay.
Fix that problem. You see what I'm saying? The idea that we need more cops and less resources in our communities, fix that problem.
Okay.
Don't ask me what I want, because I am a woke black man and I know exactly what I want in my black agenda. Now, when I said that, I didn't necessarily ask for anything directly for me, but for my people.
Right.
So if he has a plan for the Latinos, if he has a plan for the LGBTQ, MXOP or whatever, then why can't you have a plan for Black America?
You kind of walked into my point, and the question that I have on the screen is, what is our desired standard for a president? You know, I always tell my friends when we talk about relationships and dating and having some trouble with relationships, they keep meeting the wrong person, and it's not going right, and they kind of ask for my advice. And I always tell them, you know, I say, you got to know what you want, but you also have to know what you don't want, right? Which is extremely important, right? And so, do we really want Joe, or are we settling for Joe? What is our standard for a president? Are we basing our standard off of Donald Trump, and have we lowered the standard? Or do we have a real standard? In my mind, if we're comparing him as black folk, if our standard is Barack Obama, a man with no scandal, a man with no connection to deep racism and segregationists, a man that has no connection to mass incarceration whatsoever, a man that has no gaffes as it relates to African Americans. That is the standard that I'm looking for. A man
that had no standards to do anything for black people.
Well, at least okay,
they definitely have something in common.
Okay, and I'll give you that, but I'm saying at the basic level, if our standard is Barack Obama, how does Joe match up to that standard? Because if that's the case, then we're settling. It's clear that we're settling. If we choose Donald Trump, we're settling. If we choose Joe Biden, we're settling. If that's the standard, who is our standard? What is our standard? What are we looking for in a president?
It's not very hard. Go ahead, Demetra. Go ahead.
We are looking for somebody who is going to give us what we want. And for all of you guys who are talking about, well, what is the agenda? That's on you that you don't know that. And as I always say, it's not that we don't have an agenda. We don't have one that you guys will follow. Marcus Garvey had an agenda. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad had an agenda to the message to the black man in America. Dr. Claude Anderson has an agenda. There's been plenty of black agendas, but you guys don't want to follow those agendas. But I can tell you one thing. That's where y'all going to get mad. I guarantee you, if a white man write an agenda, y'all going to follow that agenda hook, line, and sinker to the T. Is this like when black people write an agenda? Oh, we don't want that when it came from him. It came. So stop it. We've always had a black agenda. You just don't want to follow it. As far as Jelon, you talk about the crack dealer screwing up the neighborhood. You need to do your research. How did the crack get in the neighborhoods? We've all seen the CIA admit that they planted drugs in the black neighborhoods. It was a calculated move. So stop defending stuff that you have no knowledge of.
So you go back to the Contra issue, you go back to Freeway Ricky Ross, you go back to all that. The same man that you defending was in office and had a part in that dope coming to our communities. That same man that you talking about putting in office has a part in them AK-47s falling off into our community. So if you want to sit here and protect this dude, we get it. He will not get my vote. Period.
You're not voting.
And this is the last time that I think this is a pivotal moment. We're at the crossroads because they are so afraid that we are going to hold our vote. Now we got you by the nutsack right now.
But check this out. So I had a long conversation with a friend yesterday, and we kind of talked about this at length. And that person kind of said to me that Joe Biden is the gateway kind of to more black freedom in America. This is what this person said. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why they said that. They said that when Joe Biden is elected president, then he will more than likely have a African-American vice president. And if something happens to Joe, then we'll have another black president. Let me give you the second point. They also said that Joe will put black people on the Supreme Court. Joe will fill the cabinet with African Americans and within his administration. And I don't doubt most of that will happen. I don't doubt most of that will happen. But what I push back on as we have this conversation, Damian Jones podcast, talking about Joe Biden's comments, is Joe Biden the gateway to black freedom? I pushed back and said, like, at what point, what's more important to us? And this is the real question. What's more important? Beating Donald Trump, helping white people beat Donald Trump. Let's remember, white people elected Donald Trump. Black folk didn't elect Donald Trump. White people elected Donald Trump. I think we got to be honest about this, right? White folks elected Donald Trump, right? And so now that they're having problems with him, now it's on us. It's a burden on us to help get him out. And if we don't get behind the Democratic nominee, then we are not black, we are not a team player or whatever have you, right? But my thing is, at what point do we prioritize black dignity, black respect, right? Because what Joe pulled the other day, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not on the payroll, so I don't have to just accept it, right? But I understand those who defend it, right? We gotta stand up for black dignity. We have been disrespected and demeaned and torn down and castigated for hundreds of years. I don't care if you're a white Republican, white Democrat, white independent, white privilege still matters, no matter what your partisan affiliation is, right? And I don't care if you're a black Republican, black Democrat, black independent, or what have you, you're still at the bottom end of the low totem pole, still catching hell. So at what point, black folks, and I know we want to be civically engaged, and that's why I love this platform, because I want to inform my people, no matter who you vote for. I don't want to tell people who to vote for, but as long as you vote and you cast your vote and you participate, or if you don't vote, you have your reasons to do so, right? I respect that. But at what point do we take a stand and say, we didn't elect Donald Trump, so it's not our burden to get him out of there? And in the same time, do we just take whatever Joe gives us because the white folks want us to save them from the mistake that they made? And like Five Star said, we have extreme leverage right now where we can hold Joe accountable. We can beat him up a little bit as well, because guess what? It ain't November 3rd. We still haven't voted. So you still have to earn our vote. Here's what I think. Joe thinks because he was connected to Obama, he got our vote. And that's not the case, Joe. You got to earn it, just like everybody else has had to earn it. Barack had to earn it because we had questions about him as well. You got to earn this vote. And so I'm not mad at those folks who say, let's sit out and let's let them see how powerful our vote is, because we shouldn't have to sit here and scramble and beg Joe to pick a a black vice president after how we saved his campaign in South Carolina. It's ridiculous that we're having these conversations, that we have to save him, and that he has to consider other. And I understand you have to consider all communities. You know, it's ridiculous that I read articles that Biden's Hispanic outreach is not up to par as well, right? It's asinine. And so, at what point do we take a stand and say black dignity is more important than saving white folks from the problem they created? Because last time I checked, we still catching hell. White Democrats can say they're for us, but we still catching hell. We're still at the bottom of the totem pole. We're still in poverty. We're still getting killed by COVID at high rates. Our COVID checks still ain't stretching out. Black businesses still didn't get any PPP money. So at what point does black dignity really matter?
Let me ask you a question, because I ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer. And can I say the word "sh" on your program?
What word?
Shh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You got Obama. He convinced us we should vote for him, which I didn't, because I knew he wasn't gonna do shit. I knew.
Mm-hmm.
So he convinced us to vote for him. He had the Senate and the House in his first term. Am I correct, Demetra? And he didn't do shit for black people. So now your running buddy, if Obama was Jordan, now we looking at Pippen.
Mm-hmm.
So now Pippen, Biden, running his mouth, exposing his true feelings. And when you started, you said people think that he's going to do a lot for black people.
Mm-hmm.
But were you not in an administration that had the Senate and the House and didn't do shit for black people?
You know what? Let me push back on that a little bit, 5-star. You know, listen, I have my critiques of President Obama, but I will say it is very tough being the first anything. And when you're the first,
so that means Joe gonna have that same toughness, right?
Well, Joe ain't the first. He ain't the first old white man that we've had in office. But let me finish this point. But I hear what you're saying. Obama was the first black person. And so therefore he had thousands of years of pressure on him to fix everything. And he couldn't. There's no way he could have fixed everything. There's so many things you could try to call into question with him. Now, given also, as you mentioned, I think the first 2 years of his presidency, he had the House and the Senate, he had a super majority, and he was still learning how to do the job. After that, he didn't have that majority, and they stopped everything he tried to do lockstep, which is why he had to go to executive orders and do things from a federal.
That is the reason you surround yourself with those key advisors. You build your cabinet with experienced politicians so that you can do what you need to do in those first 2 years. I don't give you any passes on what you couldn't do your first 2 years. You wanted the job, get it done.
Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying that they want to rock with Biden. Y'all tripping on Biden and Trump. What y'all gonna do about O'Connell? That's the real gangster.
Mitch
O'Connell is the gangster.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Trump ain't nothing but an underboss. O'Connell is the godfather. And we so focused on the presidential race, even the Democratic politicians that are in place ain't reminding their people we can take the Senate and the House.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Demetra, jump in there. I see you got some things on your mind.
Obama did a whole lot of first.
Talk to him.
Obama did a whole lot of first during his administration, did he not? Did he do a lot of things for the gay community that was considered some first? So why are we? That's what like I'm a.
Listen. My point is not that I particularly disagree with you on that, but I wanted to give full context on both sides of the conversation.
We need to tell a whole story though, because we only tell that story when it comes to justifying why he didn't do for black people. We don't tell the whole story. We he was obstructed, this, that, and the other, but he did stuff for other people. He just didn't deliver specifically. We're talking specifically for black people.
Right.
So we need to know the whole story.
So let me bring a good brother in. Marcus, did he jump out? I think he clicked out. Marcus Johnson, who is field director for the Texas Republican Party. I want to bring him in a minute when he works through his technical issues. I want to bring him into the conversation to kind of add more meat to this gumbo, if you will. But the question I just put up on the screen, I think Marcus is good to kind of jump in once he gets back in. Does the Democratic Party or Republican Party really value Black people? That is the real question, because listen, I'm a Democrat, but I have some deep critiques of the Democratic Party and its relationship with African Americans. And you can talk about the past, but you can talk about right now as we continue to look for a vice president, given the block and given the leverage and what we do for this party each and every year. We know the critiques on the Republican side. But let me bring Marcus in here. Marcus, are you there? I think he's driving in the car, having some issues there. Yeah. But does the Democratic Party or Republican Party value Black people? I'll go to you all.
When it comes to Black people, we relate more to the Democratic side. Am I correct? So if we relate more to the Democratic side, then I don't expect Republicans to do anything for Black people. Mm-hmm. I expect for my representation to do what they need to do for us. And I ain't even got to take long with this. When a white salon owner in Dallas has a problem, goes to jail and gets a fine, your Republican governor, lieutenant governor, goes to bat for, pays the fine, and gets out of jail. Changes the rules. Everybody gets mad. Ahmaud Arbery gets killed. I don't see the Black representation raising hell. When it comes to us, our representation is not suspect anymore. It's invisible.
You saying they're not showing up?
They ain't showing up, let alone showing out. They ain't doing nothing.
Let me ask you this question: If there was one Black leader that could provide a comprehensive Black agenda for us, because I really don't like when we're looking to white folks to set our agenda, which is backwards to me. But if there was one Black leader, if there's one Black leader in America right now, who would that person be that we would look to set the agenda for us?
Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Okay. And why is that?
The agenda has always existed. As Demetra said earlier, we just don't want to follow the agenda. Well, I posted a video today. He talked about the agenda. But you've been conditioned not to listen to him. When all he speaks about is love, and he tells you the truth. But he's given you, all you asked, who could put that Black agenda together? That's what you asked. I think one of the strongest Black men in America.
Let's look at this comment. I don't know if y'all see this comment from Dr. Marlon Smith, who was just on our last show. We talked about Black masculinity. Hello to you, Dr. Smith. Thank you for tuning in and giving us some feedback. But Dr. Smith says, please read Biden's Lift Every Voice agenda, Black agenda. It is another plan to help white women, LGBTQ, and others on the backs of Black people's political power. Except for HBCUs, nothing in that plan says Black.
How in the hell is a white man gonna come up with a Black agenda? I'm done.
And that sounds a lot like Obama's thing. Everybody else got helped but Black people. And this is not, and I know a lot of people, this is why it's hard to talk to certain Black people, Christians and Democrats, because you're not ever going to change their mind. Even if you bring facts to the party, they're going to swear up and down you're hating, right? But that's a fact. The Obama administration did it, and what he did, Biden did was just take a playbook out of the Obama administration's playbook. That's all he did.
Dr. Smith, I just sent you an invite. Check your email. I want you to come into this conversation and talk about the holes that you found in that agenda. I want you to join me. Check your email right now.
You know, and it's kind of funny because you know, when you talk about ADOS and all these people now, you got these people who've come here within the last 30 or 50 years, right? They're black like us. They have their, you know, thing. Programs that were set up in 1968 specifically for black people under LBJ. All these other groups have come in and taken advantage of that, and that's fine, whatever the deal is. But we got to remember, whenever we let other people take advantage of the resources that is specifically for our people, who usually ends up with the short end of the stick? And I'll give you a good example. I'm a member of the Tuskegee Airmen down in San Diego. We had our annual scholarship drive. Do you know not one recipient of any of $20,000 in scholarships toward aviation was black? So I sit there as a younger black man, even though I'm in my 50s, but compared to the people that run the organization, they're a lot older. I said, what the hell is going on here? What's happening here? Well, you know, we got to let everybody else in. You don't see black people allowed to even play or participate when it comes to the Hispanic scholarship, when it comes to the Asian scholarship. We are the only group of people that will let others in our group. I went to the Congressional Black Talkers Caucus, and I looked at their membership. They have people that are not black as part of the caucus. Now, again, when you have other people that don't look like you within a black organization, now I understand why the Congressional Black Talkers don't talk about Aubrey when he's shot in the street, black men being incarcerated, whatever, because you've got these other people in there running the agenda. Now, I'm just kind of being vague about that, but my point is, take the black off of your caucus if you're going to let everybody, you know, else in there, because I know damn well it doesn't make sense that we gave $20,000 in scholarships to other people who stole our resources.
Absolutely. So let's get Damian Jones podcast having a powerful conversation with my friends from the War Zone podcast, 5-star General Jerry Monroe, Demetra, Kaye, Donovan, Sadiq, and now we're joined by Dr. Marlon Smith, lecturer at the University of Houston, who has poured over Joe Biden's Lift Every Voice plan. And Dr. Smith, just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on, you mentioned earlier that your comment was there's nothing in the plan for black people. It is a plan to lift up LGBTQ, is a plan to lift up white women and other groups, but nothing for black people. Dr. Smith, kind of unpack what you meant by that critique. Thank you for joining us.
Let me say, so I, you know, only you, Damien, can get me on something when I got to be in another meeting in literally an hour. So,
happy Memorial Day, Dr. Smith.
Thank you. So let me, because I really want black people to understand this, and black people are getting me to the point where I'm almost finna disenfranchise myself, because I'm not going to argue. I'm not about to argue what the man has actually said. Black people are getting mad at other black people for holding white people accountable to at least a black agenda. Is driving me crazy. So, to be clear, the only thing in his plan that speaks to black people is HBCUs. Everything else in his plan speaks to minorities and marginalized communities. So, when you read a political document, if it says minority groups, guess what that means? White women can apply to minority group funding. White gay males can apply to minority group funding. Marginalized groups, if somebody can identify as a marginalized group, they can apply to that. If you say you're going to businesses in communities of color, first of all, that doesn't exclude other communities of color, because black people are not the only communities of color. But let's just say you specifically think of a business if you're going to give funding to a business in communities of color, that means that a large business can come into your minority community. How many of y'all live in Third Ward and have seen what they've done in Third Ward? How many of those are black businesses that you've seen coming in Third Ward? So what happens is you give money to large organizations to come in to do business in your community, but they really aren't doing business with your community because they're not partnering with anyone. The contracts in that they do to build those buildings are not Black architects and Black contractors. They're bringing in their own people. So then they raise up the cost of taxes. So the people who live in those communities have to then move and then are regentrified, and they bring in new employees. And even when it says to small businesses, let's be clear. Black people are not the only people who start small businesses. Also, please look at the government definition of a small business. A small business, I didn't realize, is included 500 people as employees. How many of y'all have small businesses that have 500 employees? So what the actual plan does is it allows Black people access without guaranteeing it. So in other words, what you're able to do, and we've seen this. So let me give you an example. So let's say Black lady Nikki Johnson goes in to get a small business loan for her business in hair care and cosmetology, right? Well, guess who else gets to do that? Becky gets to do that also. And so Becky gets to come in and apply for the same funding. Guess what happens? Becky ends up getting that. So then historically what we have seen, who has historically received the major benefit for small business loans? It has been white women. So I'm not hating on white women. White women need to activate and motivate themselves around their own work. That just ain't for Black people. That's not a Black agenda.
Hold on one second, Dr. Smith. Damon Jones Podcast. Thank you, everybody. Listen, if this is great information. If y'all appreciate this information and this dialogue, give me a like, give me a love, continue to share. Let us know that you're in the comments, that you appreciate this information. Having a great conversation around the upcoming election and Joe Biden's comments, and whether a vote for Joe Biden is connected to Black freedom and to your Blackness. 5-star. I want to get you back in here. There you go. There you go. Unmute yourself. You got it. So you heard Dr. Smith kind of lay it out and talk about that plan. What were some of your thoughts on what Dr. Smith just kind of laid out?
Man, I think the good doctor just told it like it was. I mean, he called a spade, and that's what it is. I mean, I've seen the plan. There's nothing in there that's beneficial to Black people. HBCUs, yeah, cool. But I mean, at the end of the day, how many of us actually go to HBCU? Does it benefit us? I'm looking at people that live in the community every day that don't go to college. You see, and as far as him saying what happens in Third Ward, that's my neck of the woods. That's where I'm from. So I get to see that firsthand every single day. I mean, bottom line, man, I'm not voting for the lesser of two evils. I'm not voting for anything that's evil. I'm not doing it. And for those out there that feel that they have to run with Biden because he was down with Obama, or I just gotta get Trump out of there, the same way you want to hold Trump accountable, can you hold Sheila Jackson Lee accountable? Can you hold Al Green accountable? Can you hold Kamala Harris accountable? Hold all these people accountable. Because these are the people, and I'm just throwing names out there, not necessarily saying they're doing something wrong. Those are the first names that came to mind.
Right.
Those are the positions that are crippling us. They are the ones that are supposed to hold Trump accountable. Don't look like they can get the job done.
Well, let me, Dr. Smith, I want to come back to you just for a second. Is a critique of Biden, and once Dr. Smith answers this, everybody can chime in on this, is a critique of Biden an endorsement of Trump? And I
no
the conversation.
No. What we have to also realize is that, first of all, we should be informed voters. If we're not an informed electorate, then really what we are is we are the tools of another informed electorate. Like, that's just what that is. And so, no, it is not. And let me say this really quickly. I want people to answer the question, because I've had this conversation with several people now. Because since I've been in this conversation in the last couple of weeks, it's forced me to ask more specifically. I want us to ask, What do black people get with the expulsion of Trump and the insertion of Biden?
That is the question of the day. What do we win? Y'all,
what do we get? If the answer,
hold on 1 second, Dr. Smith. Those who are watching, we have hit the nail right now. That's the question. I've been looking to dig all day. Answer that question in the comments. What do black folks win by removing Donald Trump and inserting another old white man who can't put together a coherent sentence, Joe Biden? Go ahead, Dr. Smith.
So let me tell you what some of the answers have been in the responses, and this is strictly anecdotal, right? So, but I really want to answer that question, because what people have told me is, like, for instance, a lot of people say, well, we'll get sanity back into the White House. Okay, so how does sanity in the White House? Because if it means that we're going to get it back, that means that we've had it before. So how has sanity in the White House improved the lives of black people? Has it been in incarceration? Let me help you as one who actually ran a prison reentry program inside a prison. It did not. Has it helped with education? Let me help you as one who has taught at the K through 12 and at the university level. It has not. Has it helped in community development? Let me help you as someone who actually worked for the largest community development corporation in the Southwest region. It did not. And so what people have to make sure that they are doing is asking, what specifically do black people get? And I'll end at this. I posted it on my Facebook page. I want everyone to go to YouTube and pull up Black Leaders Discussion 1973.
Okay.
It was a discussion that was hosted by Tony Brown. It had on there everybody from Angela Davis to it had every black leader from the 1970s on that. And guess what? If you listen to their conversation and their debates, both those that they agreed and disagreed with, it sounds like we're in 2020 talking about the same thing as they're talking about Richard Nixon. And I need for us to be a lot more critical in our political engagement and civic engagement activities, because really what white folks have got, y'all, is bamboozled, having the same old arguments about the same old things in order to get the same old results. And that makes us ignorant, lazy, and dumb by every standard of metric that we can ever pull out. And we got to stop playing that game and create a game that forms a real black political movement that advances the causes of black people, which means that we got to see a metric that literally decreases the number of black people who are incarcerated. Notice something that they will do. They will talk about the decrease in the number of black people who are going to jail, but it doesn't talk about the number of black people who have been criminalized. Because you can criminalize someone without sending them to jail or prison. You just put them on parole for the rest of their life. So we have to be much more intelligent and informed about the way we engage our political and civic engagement moments.
And that's something we can thank Biden for, the criminalization of black people.
Yeah. But and I'll come to Demetra, 5-star Donovan. Why is it that we continue to overlook the involvement in the crime bill? Why? I mean, is that a forgivable offense? I mean, he's very proud of that. That is his crowning achievement. And I know somebody said, well, people evolve. I get it. People do evolve. Mindsets do evolve, right? But when black folks make mistakes, we have to pay for them. It's held over our head for the rest of our lives. We can't get housing, things of that nature from small mistakes we make early on. Now, Joe Biden, I don't know if he has admitted if it's been a mistake, but he led the crime. I showed you the video earlier in his talk. I mean, and I show another video where he talked about these are predators. We have more police, more prison, all of those things. Why do we overlook that? Just to say, he's okay, he's one of us, that's Uncle Joe. Why do we overlook that? And that's a big indiscretion in my view.
The good doctor just said it a few minutes ago that these folks have them brainwashed, and they are so brainwashed to the point they would vote for the devil himself to get Trump out. Mm-hmm. They would vote for the devil himself. But see, self-ignorance, when you have like You
And
got
we understand that. We understand that Trump is horrible. We do understand that. I think we all are saying that.
I'm gonna tell you this here. He might be horrible, but he's honest. He gonna tell you who the hell he is. That's different than Joe, who's gonna shake your hand, kiss your baby, and go in the back room and call you a nigga. But self-ignorance is the reason that we overlook it. We don't want to do the research. We don't want to find out about Biden. We just want Trump out.
Yeah.
Go and check this man's stats. It might shock you.
Yeah. What do y'all say to the conversation of, well, because a lady put this on my status this morning. Thank you, Coretta. I really appreciate you tuning in as well. And appreciate your work. But what do you say to the conversation that because he supported our first black president and he stood lockstep, second fiddle to the first black man and humbled himself, we ought to support him just the same as we supported Obama and give him a little grace? What do you say to that school of thought?
Let me take this right here. Yeah, a lot of people got to understand. How many of you guys remember when they were in the primaries, Hillary and Obama were fighting it out, and it was apparent, because remember, John Lewis, he was a Hillary supporter no matter what. And then when everybody saw this black candidate coming out of nowhere, John Lewis, turned his vote around, and Hillary never forgave him for that. They met in a hotel in Baltimore. They bought the hotel out, and that's where they had told Hillary, we're going to go with this black man, because you guys remember Occupy Wall Street? People were about to go in revolution. And they said, we got to give these people something else. And we started going, we saw this black man get the nomination, and we went like this. That stopped Occupy Wall Street because white people were getting ready to riot in the streets. And it also, when he picked Biden as the vice president, it also gave a signal to the Dixiecrats that, hey, we got this Negro in check. We will make sure it's okay for you guys to vote for this guy because everything is going to be the same. We're not going to get a lot of things done. It's not going to be a major revolution. Calm down. And that's why he was put there. If you look at Joe Biden,
he was put there to neutralize the threat, if you will.
Exactly. Or the fear of the Dixiecrats. It's just that fear. A black man, what? I mean, come on. He hung out with Strom Thurmond. Look at this man's record. And another thing is, especially a lot of you generation millennials, or what's the generation after us? Whatever. The kids in the 80s and stuff. Joe Biden was proud to say he was the author of the crime bill. I mean, he bragged about that.
Very proud.
He bragged about that. I mean, that's why he said you got to call it the Joe Biden bill, Joe's law. That's what it's about. It's all there. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to some of your viewers and listeners, but some people are saying, okay, well, we got to get Trump. The mission is to get Trump out of there. But just like the doctor just said, for what? To do what? What's going to be different? And when we ask those questions, nobody seems to answer.
Well. Let me make this point. Just devil's advocate kind of here, because I think we need to make sure people are informed. My aim is to make sure we have all the information as we make our decision in November. I just want everybody to have all the information. I just forgot my train of thought. Well, it'll come back to me in a moment.
So can I say something? Can I say something? So I want to make sure what I am all for black people wanting to get rid of Donald Trump. If you want to get rid of Donald Trump, that's great. What I'm saying is, if you're trying to get Joe Biden in order to get something for black people, then you're not doing that, because you haven't leveraged anything. If all you're doing is getting Donald Trump in, getting him out, and getting Joe Biden in, if that's the only work of the black political vote, then I don't need to be a part of that, because you're not suggesting that black people really received anything in order to do that. So I think that if you're saying that black people are going to be better off, then you need to be able to show how we can be better off. And if you can't do that, and I'll end on this because I know everybody else has been talking and I need to let y'all say, but I think it is important to remember.
One more guy, so make your last point, Dr. Smith. Thank you for joining us.
Definitely. So when people ask about, well, Joe Biden is the gentleman who stood beside Barack Obama, who was a black man. I want people to remember that William Lloyd Garrison stood beside Frederick Douglass until he decided that Frederick Douglass was no longer an asset for what he wanted to do. And Frederick Douglass actually then parted ways with William Lloyd. And William Garrison, Lloyd Garrison was a white abolitionist. Mm-hmm. So we got to give up the idea that somehow because white people who become allies in some way to black people are still trying to advance a black agenda is not really necessarily true. And we do not need to falsely claim, as Clyburn did, that somehow then Joe is an honorary black man. Because
let me ask the doctor something before he leaves, because a lot of people believe that if Biden wins, he's going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court. So here's my question. If O'Connell wins and Biden wins, will that black woman sit on the Supreme Court, good doctor?
We don't take Barack Obama couldn't get his Supreme Court justice to sit on the Supreme Court, and he was in office. I don't know.
So basically, if Biden wins and we don't control the House and the Senate, or you know how they go, and O'Connell is still there, I'm gonna tell y'all, because I don't need to tell them, he ain't finna put nobody on the Supreme Court. Stop believing them lies.
Hold on 1 second. Dr. Smith, thank you so much. Really
thank you. I appreciate that.
Come on at any time. I want to get Marcus Johnson in here in just a moment. Marcus, go ahead and come on in the room so we can get you into the conversation. There he is. Okay, now we got bro Marcus. He made it home. He was driving. He made it home now. But Marcus, we're having a great conversation. You've kind of been hearing a lot of it, man. Pleasure to meet you, brother. This is the first time we have ever talked. Thank you for joining me on the podcast as well. You know, we have respectful conversations across the board. We don't care what your partisan affiliation is. I respect you, brother. You're doing great work. But tell us just a little bit about who you are and the work you do briefly as we walk into, as you add to this conversation.
Like I said, I've been listening the whole time. I was in the malls enjoying Memorial Day, and I said, this is what I need to listen to.
Right.
Everybody, y'all been holding it down. Everything you've been saying, I've been with you. Like, yes. And like I said, I'm Mark Johnson. I work for the Black Conservative Federation. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff. I also work for the Republican Party of Texas. I come from Louisiana, from the Republican Party there, and work for U.S. Senator. So I've been up and down. I've been around campaigns, all that. And like I said, yes, I am what you call a black Republican. Even though, can I just be Republican? That's people on the left putting labels on us. Got to say I'm Republican, I'm black. And I'm like, well, thanks for saying I'm black. So I love that part. But
right.
From what the whole Biden thing and all that, like I said in the comments, I'm more pissed off by him saying you're not black if you don't rock with it. Because like I said, there are black voters who just don't rock with Joe, black independent voters. I'm talking about them. I don't care about me as a conservative. I don't worry about me. I worry about my people. And by you saying they're not black, which makes me mad. Like I said, the integrity that we got to have as black people.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, it's important that we get your view as a conservative on that side. So that takes you off as well.
Oh yeah, it pissed me off too. But at the same time, I'm not worried about that. My viewpoint is always about my people. Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm on this side where everybody say, "Oh, they don't care." They do care, because guess what? Just like your old 5-star said, at least Trump is honest about what he is. And just like I tell it like it is. So in the end, my side want it. We want y'all to come over. Granted, I'm not a converter. I'll never go to my neighborhoods, nothing like that, and be like, hey, Democrat Party, so you should be. That's not me. It's just in the end, if you like me and what I say and you rock with me, then cool. I'm here to answer your questions. Let's talk. Can I use my resources on my side to come with your side, and let's come together to help all of us.
Well, I got a question for you. Can I ask him a question?
Yeah.
If y'all can, if y'all not talking, mute your microphones.
I think it might be Mark. You might have some feedback. Are you watching the broadcast? Maybe, yeah. Everybody's kind of turn that down with audio. There we go. Go ahead.
The young man's name is Marcus, right? Okay, so Marcus, let me ask you a question, because on our show we're nonpartisan. We can rock either way. I don't really care. I just want the best people in office. And this is a question I ask, and I never get an answer on my show. On our show, we never get an answer. What has Trump done to black people in his 4 years in office that hurt black people more than the black politicians that ain't done nothing?
Not a damn thing. That's what I've been trying to figure out ever since he started. Now, I was back when he ran the first time and nobody paid him no attention. And then when he finally got steam, and granted, yes, some of us in the party was like, man, Hillary's going to beat him. All right, let's think 4 years ahead. And then he won, which flipped everybody's heads up. And next thing you know, oh, he's a racist. And yet we've known Donald Trump since the 80s. We built him since the 80s. Everybody, what you walk like know who Donald Trump is, and all of a sudden he's just racist these last 3-4 years. Every black politician, athlete, entertainer know Donald Trump, but then these last 3 years he's hurt all the black people. Like how? That's what anything with the whole part. Like how? Whereas you, like I said, the crime bill hurt more black people than anything, and that's on the Democrat side. So my people, just like I said, on the Republican side, it's not like we don't like black people. Not that. We just don't like anybody who's superly going to have like the Democrats, because that's just anyway. What's the return of investment? We get all these black people doing stuff for black people, but they know, okay, that's not going to help us down ballot. But that's just both sides. What's the return of investment?
Basically, he's done nothing to African Americans. You see what I'm saying? He's done nothing to African Americans. And my thing is, and I want you to tell the people, what's so damn bad about being a black Republican?
Nothing. I've got more. I'm sorry. I've been very successful ever since I finally, like I said, came out of the voting booth. Because I went to an HBCU. I ain't tell nobody.
Where'd you go? What school you go to?
Southern University, Baton Rouge.
Okay. I ain't gonna hold that against you, brother. I ain't gonna hold that against you.
Which one you went to again?
Texas Southern, brother. Texas Southern.
We like TSU.
But I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, so I grew up around Jackson State. So,
bro, stop talking. But no, ain't nothing wrong with, like I said, ever since I came out here, I stumbled into politics, just wanted to know more about it because I like watching the TV shows. And from there, I went from intern to director with the RNC, and now worked for a U.S. Senator. And I'm like, nothing's wrong with this. I got white people all the time coming to me. It's like, how can we come to you all and get more of us, get more of y'all onto us? I'm like, well, first of all, you can't say certain things because, like a Joe Biden, I've been a handler. And I've told my U.S. Senator, hey, this is what you're going to say. Here. Don't do that. Don't do this. And he never went off the cuff as much as I know he wanted to. Mm-hmm. But that lets me show that he respect what I do. He respected me to listen to my words. And yes, so there's nothing wrong being a black person.
So let me ask you this. We've had this conversation. We're critiquing Joe Biden. I'm gonna mute you. Yeah, I'm gonna mute you right now. We're critiquing Joe Biden, and in this conversation, we're not saying that this is an endorsement of Trump, right? I don't know about the others, but I know I respect your view and how you want to go about your civic engagement. I'm just glad that you're involved, brother, and I respect what you've been able to do. But given all that Trump does, and I showed a video earlier of him disrespecting black women in the press corps, calling them stupid. Given his other attacks on black folks, he doesn't want to put Obama's picture up in the dadgum White House. He has some type of obsession with Obama that bothers him in some type of way. Given his nasty record as it relates to racism, housing issues as well, in his past as well, and I could go on and on and on. Given all those things, what is it about? Is it Donald Trump or is it the Republican Party? What is it that attracts you to the Republican Party? Let us know. There may be some people that's on the fence that you may be able to convert. I don't know, but I'm just saying, what is it about Trump's record that attracts you over to that side?
Well, I was already on this side before there was a Donald Trump.
Okay.
So once again, I'm not about the politician.
Okay.
Certainly, like I said, not liking taxes. Nobody should like taxes. I hate taxes. And then I hate government involvement. When somebody actually said, well, the government shouldn't be telling you what to do all the time. I'm like, well, that actually kind of makes sense to me because I want to do my own thing. Because personally, I'm kind of libertarian. Like, long as let me do me, and long as I'm not buying nobody else, you're not bothering me, I'm good with that. But like I said, I love the tax. And now what Trump has done, that's him as the person. I can't do nothing about that. Yeah, he's problematic as hell. Yes, a lot of my people in my circle, we have these conversations. We're like, man, he did it again. It's like, he's making our job very hard. Don't get me wrong. But that's just the person. You got to put the person and the politician aside, and he's not even a politician. Let's get that out the way. He's not a politician, unlike a Joe Biden and other people who've been in office for 40, 30, 20 years.
Exactly.
That's like saying, oh, LeBron was the greatest, and then comparing him to Michael Jordan in his rookie year. You can't do that. He won the highest off. He is the embodiment of American politics, where you can get in the politics game in any level, as long as you have the money. That's why a lot of politicians are either doctors or lawyers, and they can fundraise. But he went for the highest office, and he won. I can run for president if I want to. If I had the money, I can run for any position, and that's the beauty of this country. But now, what he does in his, I can't speak on that. That's a personal thing. I don't know him.
Do you want him out? I'm hearing that there's a kind of ethic within the Republican Party behind closed doors that they're just going along to get along. You really want Trump out because he's making your party look bad. I mean, you just said that you're not a Trumpster per se. You've been in the party, so you're loyal to the party, not particularly Trump. But is there talk where even your own insiders want to get rid of Trump to move the party back to some type of sensibility in the middle of the road, maybe?
I'm not that high up.
Okay.
I'm not that high up to answer that kind of question. Don't get me wrong. Hey, they got probably insiders on old Biden right now saying the same thing, but I can't speak on that. Like I said, I'm not that high up. I don't have those many voices to hear that. And then why would I self-preservation? Why would I say that? But no, it's just like you said. I lost my train of thought for a second. But no, it's not the inside. It's like I said, he's just problematic. Don't get me wrong. Everybody is, and what I'm saying, I'm for the party. I'm for the values of the party, and party's done good by me. So I can't. Like I said, I can't talk too bad. Like I said, do they have their problems? Yes, everybody has their problems. But once again, for me, it's been working out for me ever since I, like I said, in the end, used my views and my values, and I turned it to a profit. And that's not a bad thing. That's an American way. That's capitalism all day.
Good deal.
But he's problematic, and okay, as long as he does work. As you said, what has he done for black people? Like I said, he's funded HBCUs. He's done criminal justice reform. He doesn't have to do it. That's the thing about Trump is, for me, he could be guided like a missile. Because like I said, he's not a politician. He doesn't care about the next 8, 10, 20 years in his political career. But if he got people in his ear that looks like me that tell him, hey, you need to start funding HBCUs. You need to help with the SBA. You need to do with criminal justice reform. He's going to do it because in the end, he doesn't really care. He worries about a legacy. But as long as he got people in his ear to tell him what to do, he can do it. This is the best person to have because he doesn't care. Right. In the end, he's like, I'm going to do for me, which makes me look good and then look at my people. Whereas a career politician has to tiptoe everywhere and make sure everybody's happy and makes them know, oh, I'm the greatest. And a career fight. Trump don't need this after 4 years. He's done. Is anybody going to talk about Trump after 8 years? No, he's not a career politician. He's not going to run for the Senate. He's not going to run for anything else. This is what he just did. And we still trying to figure out how he won the first time. Because remember, everybody thought he was not going to win.
So I got to get out of here. This has been an incredible conversation. Marcus, I'm going to have you on going forward. I hope that you will join us at all times so we can continue to have well-versed conversations as well. 5-star, Demetra, Kaye, Donovan, Sadiq, thank you all. But you know, and thank you everybody for watching today. I want to give everybody a final thought before we get out of here. But I want to show y'all I have an incredible conversation coming up on Wednesday. Damien Jones podcast airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12:30. And on next Wednesday, this Wednesday, we will be talking with Houston Police Chief Art Acevedo. It is an incredible conversation. Let me show you a quick clip from that conversation. You know, I spoke with your cadet class about 2 weeks ago. One of the things I shared with them is the history of the relationship between law enforcement and black and brown person. When you pull over a black or brown person, we are scared shitless. But because of the history of what has happened over the years, brutality, flat out terror. When you talk about what happened with Chad Holly here, when you talk about what's happening with Officer Gerald Goins and what's being uncovered as it relates to that, there is a history of deep terror. When you talk about Ahmaud Arbery, there's a deep terror, there's a deep fear when we encounter the police. And when then you add these 5 fatal shootings, Chief, can you understand the outrage and the frustration coming from the community as well? We've heard your outrage, but can you also understand their outrage as well as it relates to this relationship? So stay tuned. Make sure you tune in for that conversation on Wednesday in its entirety. It is jam-packed, and we asked a lot of tough questions, and he sat in the hot seat and answered. And I learned a lot about hot seat questions from my friends on the War Zone as well. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. This is the Damian Jones podcast, airing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you want to get more information about the show or our previous content, visit IamDamianJones.com. If you want to support, I learned this from the general as well. You want to support the podcast, hit our Cash App right now. If you enjoyed today's conversation, DJ Podcast as well. Thank you, Jerry Monroe, 5-star General. Thank you, Demetra Kaye. Thank you, Donovan Sadiq. And thank you, Dr. Marlon Smith, for jumping in at the last moment. And thank you, my good brother and my friend, going to be for a long time, Mr. Marcus Johnson. And until next time, folks, live your life with intensity, integrity, and intelligence. This is the Damian Jones Podcast.